Hey everybody, it's me Lone, back with a Flight 76 video in the new year. It is 2022. I hope you all had a great New Year's, and today we're going to be doing a video about Minerva's big sale. Minerva is back in town in Appalachia, selling her wares at a discounted gold bullion rate, and today I want to be showing you where she is, what she has on sale, and listing the items that I think you need to buy from her. So if you enjoy this video, if it helps, please like it, I would really appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new, with notifications if that's possible. But with that out of the way, let's get to the content. Alrighty, we're in the game and let's start off with the obvious. Where is Minerva located for a big sale this week? Well, this time she's going to be at Fort Atlas. So I'm sure many of you know where that is already, but if you don't, it is roughly in the middle of the map in the Savage Divide region. This is where all the Steel Rain and Still Dawn quest lines effectively start. So what you want to do is just fast travel there, turn around and head down the road, and you'll see Minerva's green tent over this way. Minerva's inventory this week is interesting. I know that some of the items have already been on sale as part of Minerva's big sales in the past, so many of you out there might already have some, most, or if not all of the items that she has on sale this week. But if you don't, I will be showing you all of them and recommending the ones that you should either buy or just kind of hold off on. And as always, if you are interested in any one of these items that she's selling, be sure to pick it up now, because the discount that she does have when it comes to gold bullion is nice. It's not like the craziest amount out there in terms of the discount, but anything that helps reduce the grind for gold bullion is welcome in my eyes. So for sure, pick up something if it, catches your fancy. So let's start off with the Gauss Minigun. In my opinion, the Gauss Minigun is one of the best, or at least one of the better heavy weapons in the game. It's a gun that I'm very familiar with. I use it as one of my mains. It's the gun that I pull out when I want to take on a boss enemy, like, Earl Williams or the Milo Queen, the Super Mutant Behemoth, etc., etc. It's a gun that I've relied on a lot of times in the past. It can deal so much damage. It's incredible, especially once the spin up happens and it's just, wrecking with the bullets. And I do recommend that if you're a heavy gun user, or if you're looking to get into heavy guns, the Gauss Minigun is something that you want to try and get a decent roll and just experiment with. I think it's going to serve most of you in almost any scenario. The one scenario that it has a little bit of a weakness is against the Scorchbeast Queen, because Gauss Miniguns, and in fact all Gauss weaponry, use bullets which have inherent explosive damage. So in fact, when you're fighting something like the Scorchbeast Queen, which actually resists explosive damage to some extent, or to a large extent, the Gauss Minigun doesn't perform as well against her. Now, all of the damage on this gun isn't explosive, mind you, but it is a decent chunk, or at least a chunk that gives the Gauss Minigun an edge in other circumstances. So, doesn't perform as well as you might like against the Scorchbeast Queen, but against most other enemies in the game, it does really well. Now, because it has that inherent explosive damage, you really do need to be using a maxed out demo expert to get max DPS on this gun. You don't have to, but it's something that you might as well do because you have that explosive damage you can increase. In fact, this is my Gauss Minigun build. If you're interested, feel free to copy it. But I do recommend a maxed out demo expert, which does mean you need to spare up 5 points in your build. So if you don't have that, maybe I would recommend a different heavy gun if you don't want to boost that explosive damage. But I recommend that you do it, because it does, help the Gauss Minigun deal even more damage. But it's pretty good in my opinion anyways. I know some people aren't too keen on the Gauss Minigun. Captain Noob, I'm looking at you. But in my opinion, I still think it's a decent heavy weapon. Probably not one of the best in the game. I think some people would say the Gatling Plasma, is the better heavy weapon in the game. But I still think it's one of the top tier weapons for sure. And it's amazing against most other enemies, and still does all right against the Scorchbeast Queen. Don't get me wrong. So as I said, it does need maxed out demo expert, which can be seen as a weakness or a downside. One of the other downsides is its spin up and spin down animation. So when it comes to the spin up animation, as you know with other weapons of this ilk, it takes a couple of seconds to actually start shooting, right? So if there's a bunch of mobs around you and you're almost about to die, maybe don't pull out the Gatling or the Gauss Minigun, Maybe get a weapon like the 50 cal or the LMG that can just start firing instantly. Probably not one of the better situations for it. However, if you can get around the startup animation, once it starts going, it's freaking amazing. Like, the DPS on this thing can be insane. Angry Turtle did a video on this weapon, and in fact all heavy weapons, and determined that it has one of the better DPS in the game. I believe it was just behind the Flamer. So even when you compensate for reload speed, because it has a decent reload speed, and another perk card that you need because of that is Where is it? I don't have it equipped at all times. Let me get rid of traveling pharmacy. Lock and load. It does help the Gauss Minigun reload a little bit faster, and it has a fairly slow reload speed. So that's another perk card that I think that you need to have. But even when you compensate for this reload speed, it still does have a decent DPS. But another downside, and let me unequip that because I have too many stim packs on me right now. Another downside with this gun is the spin down animation. And the reason why that's a downside is because let's say you're about to die and you really need to use a stim pack and you stop shooting to try and use a stim pack, right? You can't actually use a stim pack with this gun equipped as it's spinning down until the spin down animation ends. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's say you're shooting and you're like, crap, I really need to use a stim pack. I'll stop shooting and try to use the stim pack, and I can't until that spin down animation ends. And that can be make or break it. If you're a bloodied build, that can be a life or death scenario. There is a tricky way around it. You can go into your Pip-Boy and use the stim pack in the menu, and that makes it a little bit quicker. But still, it's another extra step that you have to do to not die in a situation. And there have been times where I've died when using the Gauss Minigun, when they need to use a stim pack and having very low health. So that is one of the downsides for sure, both the spin up and the spin down animation. But again, if you can get around that, it's really good at range, has incredible DPS in my opinion. And I think it's an all-round good build. And it pairs well with other explosive heavy guns in terms of the legendary effect. Like, for instance, my main weapon is a, where is it? The blooded explosive Gatling gun. So I use this as the main against mobs. And then again, when I really want to deal a lot of damage against boss enemies, I'll pull out the Gauss Minigun. And because they have that explosive damage, Demo Expert is maximized for both of them. So that's really effective in my opinion. So TLDR, yes, get the Gauss Minigun if you don't already have it. I think it's a really good heavy weapon in the game. So we've talked about that. I'm going to cover this up because I got some notes next to me. Let's talk about the Gauss pistol. Now, the Gauss pistol itself isn't up for sale right now, but what are some of the mods for it. The Gauss pistol doesn't have a crazy number of mods in the game, but it still has a decent amount, and you're getting some pretty good ones here. So you got the Gauss pistol aligned short barrel, the Gauss pistol drum magazine, and the Gauss pistol refined receiver. I'll go through each of these in a second, but first I want to talk about the Gauss pistol in general. Now, I think in terms of pistol builds, the Gauss pistol is a decent choice. Again, it's probably not one of the best in the game. I think most people would say that the Crusader pistol is the best pistol when it comes to pistol builds. And some other pistols are up there too. But I still think the Gauss pistol is a decent choice. It's a fun choice. It makes it different because it has kind of like the Gauss shotty. You have to charge it up, if you want to get the maximum damage. And it just mixes it up a little bit compared to other pistols in the game. So I think it's a decent choice, but it's definitely not the top tier when it comes to pistols in the game. It is capable, though, of one-shotting mobs in the game, just like the Gauss shotgun. The Gauss shotgun is even better at one-shotting, don't get me wrong, but the Gauss pistol is still capable of it for sure. And you don't always have to fully charge the Gauss pistol to get that one-shot effect. Less so with the Gauss shotgun. Sometimes the Gauss shotgun you can barely charge, and when your build is maximized, you can one-shot. Gauss pistols, more often than not, you have to charge it up a little bit more than the Gauss shotty to get that guaranteed one-shot against some of those mobs out there. But yeah, it still does a pretty decent job. It does have some issues in VATS, I believe. Sometimes it's not the most accurate gun in VATS. So what I would recommend is maybe if you're having those VATS issues, try and use it out of VATS. If you can get the accuracy right, and then you have a pretty decent pistol on your hands. Again, because it uses Gauss bullets, or is it 2mm EC, it again has inherent explosive damage. So again, I would recommend that you max out Demo Expert if you want to maximize the Gauss pistol. Kind of like all Gauss weaponry, I recommend that you have Demo Expert, right? Now, I mentioned the charge up time. So the charge up time is its biggest strength and also its biggest weakness. It's its biggest strength because it allows it to deal crazy damage when you have the fully charged up Gauss pistol shot ready to go, right? But it's also its biggest downside because it takes time for that charge up to happen. So again, you might have to change your playstyle a little bit, maybe not use this gun so up close against mobs if you are worried about dying while you're charging up your shots. But I still think it's something that you can get around, and it does a decent job, right? Now, I gotta mention though that I say that the Gauss pistol is a decent choice, not the best choice of pistols, but it's still a pistol build. And as you know, pistol builds in the game are lower tier compared to other builds in the game. So it's not something like, if you're a beginner player and you're not so confident playing the game, I wouldn't recommend a pistol build as your first choice. I would definitely recommend something like a heavy gun build or even a commando build. But still, if you are able to, you know, navigate your way throughout the game, you know what you're doing, you want to mix it up a little bit, you can get by with a pistol build. Not very effective against end boss monsters or like, you know, Scorchbeast Queen and Earl Williams and all that kind of stuff. Not as effective compared to other builds in the game and other weapons in the game. But like any gun, you're going to do all right against mobs. Like mobs are going to die pretty quickly anyways. So I reckon the Gauss pistol is one for you pistol builds out there. If you want to give it a go, I think you're going to have a bunch of fun with it. But in terms of the actual mods, which are being sold right now, so we got the aligned short pistol. Now, this is a decent choice for the Gauss pistol because what does it improve? It improves recoil and hipfire accuracy, and that makes it helpful outside of VATS. As I mentioned, you might have some VATS issues, so the aligned short barrel is a decent choice. And the only downside that it has is that it makes your durability worse. And to be honest, in Flight 76, with all the repair kits and everything like that, inferior durability is not the worst downside in the world, so you can definitely get around that. The drum magazine is a must-have when it comes to the Gauss pistol. It increases your magazine capacity by a lot, and you just have so many bullets to use. So for sure, get the Gauss pistol drum magazine from Minerva right now if you are interested in it. And then also as well, you have the refined receiver. This is what I like to call the nice all-around receiver when it comes to the Gauss pistol mods. So again, you have inferior durability, not too much of a downside, but you have improved accuracy, improved damage, and improved hipfire accuracy. So it's one of those mods that boosts, you know, all those stats all around in a nice kind of consistent way. So if you want to get the best all-rounder, I would recommend the refined receiver, though it doesn't give you as much damage as like the hardened receiver or the prime receiver even. So if you want to deal maximum damage, lean towards those two. If you want just a good all-round receiver that helps you improve your accuracy, improve your damage and your hipfire accuracy, especially if you're not using VATS, then think about the refined receiver. To be honest, when you're using these kinds of weapons, just get all the mods and experiment between them and see which one you like. It's the best way to try and figure out which are the best mods for you. But those are my recommendations. If you want to use the Gauss pistol, get these mods for sure. I think they're going to be worthwhile for you. So that is that. Let's highlight those notes so I know that I am finished with them. Let's talk about, well, technically in my list right now, we have the Secret Service Underarmor lining, and then we have the protective lining for the Secret Service Underarmor. So we'll cover both of those now. So the Secret Service Underarmor is definitely one of the better underarmors in the game, especially when you are pairing it with one of these linings. So for instance, the protective lining gives it plus 12 across DR or damage resistance, energy resistance, and radiation resistance. And also as well, it gives you plus 2 strength, it gives you plus 2 perception, and plus 4 endurance. So all of those stats are really nice when it comes to Under Armor, but I would not recommend, if you already picked it up, that's fine. But if you haven't purchased either one of them yet, ignore the protective lining and just purchase the shielded lining, because the shielded lining is actually the best in my opinion when it comes to the Secret Service Under Armor, because it gives it the best stats boost across the board. So with the shielded lining, you get plus 15 to your DR, ER, and ER, so the best stats when it comes to that. And you also get plus 4 strength, you get plus 2 perception, and plus 4 endurance. So definitely, if you're choosing between these two, just go with the shielded. It's more expensive, but it's worth it. And just ignore the protective lining, because you don't really need it when you're using the shielded lining. So for sure, if you are using Secret Service Under Armor, or if you already have the plan for it, be sure to pick up the shielded lining. It's very, very, very good. But also as well, there are some other linings out there, or some other Under Armors rather, in the game. You don't absolutely need to use the Secret Service Under Armor, but I still think it's one of the better ones. And you know, kind of when it comes to the Secret Service armor, it pairs well. You can't see it, of course, but it's nice to know that you have the Secret Service armor and the Secret Service Under Armor, in my opinion. Anyways, I'm weird like that. Alrighty, so moving on, we have the Mechanic's Best Friend. This is a unique legendary weapon in the game that I haven't seen in the game for a very long time. I believe the first time it was in the game was in 2019, and it was a reward for a challenge of some sort. And I didn't complete it at the time, as you can see. I still haven't purchased the plan, or learnt the plan, I should say. So because of that, and I don't believe it was in the game after that. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. It's been a very long time. But this might be one of your only chances to pick up the Mechanic's Best Friend for a fairly long time. I don't know when it's going to be returned to the game. So if you want to pick it up, just for that reason, do so, right? But the Mechanic's Best Friend is not meant to be a weapon that's used against general mobs, and I'll explain why. So its legendary effects are troubleshooters, so you get plus 50% damage to robots, power attack damage, so you get plus 40% damage when you're doing power attacks, and plus 1 strength, so you get a little bit more damage because it's boosting your strength and thereby boosting your melee damage in the game. And also as well, it is a pipe wrench. So you look at those legendary stats first of all, and it's very clearly meant to be used against robots, right? And robots, while they are obviously in the game and you can get a lot of them and they can hit very, very hard, they're not mobs that you're always going to encounter. You're going to encounter ghouls more, you're going to encounter super mutants more, depending where you are on the map in particular. So it's very, very situational if you want to get the most out of this weapon. Yes, power attack damage is a decent legendary effect when it comes to melee, and also plus 1 strength is a decent legendary effect. But I would say that when it comes to melee, faster swing speed is probably better than getting plus 40% power attack damage, because now you're relying on using power attacks to get the most out of it. And especially against robots, they can carve you up very, very quickly. So if you're very slowly using power attack damage, it might be to your downfall. But also as well, it's a pipe wrench, right? And the pipe wrench is definitely not one of the better, melee weapons, let alone one-handed melee weapons in the game. If you want a better one-handed melee weapon, use the plasma cutter. That's definitely better. But why would you pick up this Mechanic's Best Friend plan to craft it? I would say it's if you want to have a bit of fun, if you want to role play as a mechanic, if you want to pick it up for completionist's sake because it is a unique legendary weapon in the game, if you want to display it at your camp, reasons like that are why you should be picking up the Mechanic's Best Friend. Don't pick up this weapon thinking you're going to be wrecking havoc across Appalachia. That's just not going to happen, all right? With a decently, paired build, you might do all right, don't get me wrong, especially against robots, but still, it's not something that's meant to be your main go-to weapon in the game. So collect it if you want, or purchase it if you want. It might be one of your only chances to do so, at least for a while, but don't rely upon it as your main weapon in the game. So that is the Mechanic's Best Friend. We talked about the Secret Service Underarmor, and now let's finish on the Thorn Armor. So you can purchase all pieces of the Thorn Armor at a discount. The chest piece, left arm, left leg, right arm, and right leg. So I'll be honest, I'm not too familiar when it comes to the Thorn Armor in the game. So I did a fair bit of research on this because I haven't used it that much, if at all, because I don't even have the bloody plan. I've used it on a friend's account because I just wanted to test it out, but I don't have that much experience with it. But let me tell you what I found out when it comes to the research on it, right? So in terms of the stats, right, the stats definitely aren't top tier. For the arms, you get plus 25 DR and plus 20 ER, and let's compare that to the Secret Service Armor, for instance, which gives you 40 DR, 40 RR, and 40 ER when it comes to limbs. On the chest, you get 60 damage resistance and 40 energy resistance compared to the Secret Service's 90 damage resistance, 60 energy resistance, and 60 radiation resistance. And then again on the legs, you get 25 damage resistance for the Thorn Armor and 20 energy resistance for the Thorn Armor compared to the Secret Service's 40 across the board. So in terms of the resistance stats, the Thorn Armor is definitely not best. It's definitely not top tier. But the reason why some people are attracted to the Thorn Armor is because it has a unique effect. When you have all of the pieces of the Thorn Armor, you get a set bonus. And the set bonus in particular is melee targets and melee attackers bleed. Also as well, you're harder to detect while sneaking. So there's that two-pronged approach there. So what is this bleed damage? Well, bleed damage essentially means that melee attackers receive plus 2 bleed damage per second for 10 seconds. Melee targets receive plus 5 bleed damage per second for 10 seconds. And the full Thorn set in terms of the sneak bonus provides 5% less detection from movement and adds plus 15 to sneak. So in terms of sneaking, it's actually pretty decent, right? But really it's the bleed damage effect that you would want to use this armor set for. And also remember, you do need to purchase Vault Steel from Minerva to be able to craft the pieces for the Thorn Armor. You can craft it with different legendary effects in addition to the set bonus as well. So you can get Unyielding, for instance, if you wanted to, but you do need the Vault Steel. And I don't believe you can actually re-roll pieces of the Thorn Armor, so you have to keep crafting new ones with Vault Steel and hope you get a decent legendary effect spread. So keep that in mind when it comes to the Thorn Armor. It's going to take you a little bit of grinding even after purchasing these plans to be able to get a decent set that you want to use in the game. So Why would you want to use the Thorn Armor in Fallout 76? I wouldn't say that it's top tier, right? But there are certain situations where you might want to use it. Of course, if you're a melee or an unarmed user, because then you can maximize that bleed damage effect, right? And bleed damage works with all unarmed and melee weapons except the chainsaw for some reason. So if you're a melee or an unarmed user and you want to, experiment with a set of armor that's specifically catered to your build, use it, right? Use the Thorn Armor. Also as well, if you get decent legendary stats, you can actually get decent amounts of damage with the Thorn Armor. You can get a couple of hits on an enemy and then go attack another enemy. And that enemy that you attacked initially is losing its health. It's not losing its health at a crazy rate in most circumstances, but you're still able to take on a lot of different mobs when it comes to using melee weapons and this Thorn Armor. Also as well, and this is a very particular situation that I found, so correct me if I'm wrong, but apparently with the Buzzblade or the Ripper, this build or this set of armor does really, really well because bleed damage stacks to an unlimited level, I believe. So it makes it very, very good in particular with those weapons. So if you have a decently legendary rolled Buzzblade or a Ripper, have a think about the Thorn Armor too. And also as well, if you sneak with your melee build, if you're a sneak user, you get a decent sneak boost. I actually think that this sneak boost with the Thorn Armor is probably just behind the Covert Scout armor in terms of sneakiness. So definitely, if you want a bit of sneakiness, if you want to use your melee, you could do some decent damage with this particular set of armor. So think about it. If you're using sneak the moment that you attack an enemy, right, and it doesn't die first time, you're likely getting out of sneak, and then you have to rely on your bleed damage. So maybe some of you might think that's not the best pairing, but still, if you like to use sneak with a melee weapon, then definitely have a try with the Thorn Armor. You might actually really like it. So in my opinion, as a general piece of advice when it comes to the Thorn Armor, if you already have a good set of Secret Service armor, Brotherhood, BOS Recon armor, Covert Scout armor, etc., if you already have a decent set of that kind of top tier armor in the game, and you want to try something a little bit different, and you're a melee user and all the above that I just mentioned, then maybe pick up the Thorn Armor. Then maybe grind for the Vault Steel and see what you think about this armor set. But I probably wouldn't use it as a main armor set in the game. And I know that the Solar Armor, they're not exactly comparable, but on balance, I've seen people prefer the Solar Armor over the Thorn Armor. So that is it for this video. I hope this was helpful. Let's exit and get to the conclusion. Alrighty, Waysanders, that is all from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And until next time, this has been Lone. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.